All right, it is 6:30. So we'll start this meeting of the Jericho Selectboard at 6:30 PM. And I get to read this at the beginning of each meeting because different people may come and not know what we're doing anymore. But in an effort to make the meeting more effective and efficient, the Select Board has made a change to the public comment portion of the meeting. Citizens or others wishing to address the Select Board during meeting may do so during the public comment portion. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. All speakers will be heard before people are given a second opportunity to speak. Once the public comment portion of the meeting is over, the public will be able to speak. The chair determines their input is needed during another portion of the meeting. What we're going to try for that one is have a public comment for things not on the agenda at the beginning, and public comments for those that questions that come up during the meeting at the end. So it's all in brackets. For participants on Zoom, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Please only use the Zoom chat for technical issues such as room audio, or if you can't raise your hand or things of that nature. Please don't comment or question in the chat, as it is distracting for all. The intent of this new policy is not to stifle community input, but rather to allow the Select Board to be more effective and efficient in our work. People are welcome to email the members of the Select Board at any time with feedback or questions. Our email addresses are on the town's website and on the notice on the sign-in table. Thank you very much. And so going to start. Is there anybody who wishes to speak for issues that are not on the agenda? I don't see anybody, so we'll move right on into Matt, if you'll come to the.
Well, thank you for having us. As part of our budget this year in the capital plan, we had funding in there to purchase a used ladder truck. So we have undertaken the effort to find one. We have found one out of Long Island, New York. It is an older truck. It did have a lot of refurb work done to it a while back. The mileage is low after the refurb. The hours are low after the refurb. So the intent for us here tonight was to have a conversation. We're not necessarily looking for approval, but we wanted to make sure that we were open with the communities, that was our plan moving forward. So we have found this truck. If you go to, again, the second page here, the presentation is just our capital plan, showing that it was in there. We have a maximum expense of $115,000. We do plan on taking a loan over 5 years for the cost of the truck. The life of the truck would be 7 years for us. Okay.
Answers when I make questions.
Okay. Yeah. The plan would be 7 years, and 7 years from now, there's additional funding in the capital plan. I think it's $380,000 to buy another used ladder truck in the future. And that money is dependent upon, how this goes, right? What do we learn from this? The idea behind this truck is to build our program, get people, we've never had an aerial truck. How you approach a fire scene is different. How you use this is different than anything we've done before. So the intent was not to go buy $1 million truck that we've never used and build something that we have no experience with. We'll get the experience with this truck. We'll grow our knowledge. We'll build our programs. We'll build our documentation. We'll all learn how to position trucks, because again, it'll be different, and it's different, way different here than in the city of Burlington, right? If we're going out, Nashville Road up Bentley Lane, some places out off of Pleasant Valley Road or Irish Settlement Road, it's a whole different ballgame. There are places in our community where this truck won't go. It won't go, right? But that being said, there are places in the community that we think that are coming in the future, that a truck like this would certainly be needed in the future. So
why don't you give us some examples of where you think it?
Well, the prime example is the mill property by Jericho Market. We've seen some preliminary plans for buildings there that are 3 stories with residential on the 3rd story. We've heard conversation about potentially pushing to get a 4th story on that building. Our 35-foot ground ladders won't work. And if it's, 2:00 in the morning in January and there's a structure fire there, waiting for the ladder truck out of Essex Junction or Williston is likely going to have a pretty bad outcome. So, and again, this is things that we as an organization don't have a lot of experience with. I mean, some of the people in the organization have been in different organizations with a ladder truck, but we've never had anything like that here, obviously. So a little bit about the truck itself. It's a 1992 Pierce truck. It's got a 1500 GPM pump on it, 200 gallons of water on it. It is a 105-foot steel ladder. They call it a quint. It is a tandem axle in the back. Ultimately, I don't foresee the Underhill Jericho, as we move forward, we weren't looking for a truck this big. I don't think,
yeah, because you're talking.
well, I don't think we need a truck this big, but the price is right for this one. So that's, kind of
the truck you need because it's
correct.
Yeah, because you had talked, there's
yeah.
a smaller one that you had.
Yeah,
been looking at.
so if you look at like Burlington's Engine 4 or not their tower, it's a single axle in the back, shorter ladder truck. This one just happens, it kind of fell in the price range, and yes, it is older, but there's been a lot of work done to it. So
I think it'll last the 7 years.
we're hoping. I mean, the next page has a bunch of statistics on the truck. It's got a new light it's got an LED light package on it. So, we shouldn't have to worry about replacing strobe. I mean, we had some trucks in the last 2 years that we had to replace the old original strobe lights on because they weren't working and you couldn't get parts. That has been done on this truck. The interior has been redone. There's been a lot of work done. It had an engine rebuild and a transmission rebuild done on it. So it's passed all of its recent certifications. So, and again, there's just more information, about the truck itself. Again, it is a little bit bigger than likely what we would need.
Will it fit in your garage?
Yes. Yeah, it'll fit in the station. It will fit in the station. That's not.
I was always worried about some of the bigger ones.
The forethought that was put into the construction of that station always had in it the fact that we would likely someday get a ladder truck, and it was built to accommodate that, from the day it was built. So no modifications necessary to get the truck in the station. I don't believe it would fit in Jericho. I think the doors in Jericho are too narrow. So again, we've got maintenance records, we've got certifications, all of those things. We held an online meeting with the department that has it. Down in Long Island, they have fire districts. The fire district that owns this truck has 30 plus fire apparatus. They actually have a dedicated maintenance crew that works for the fire district, that they do all their fire apparatus maintenance. We use Allegiance or other contractors to do our maintenance. They have in-house maintenance. They have a crew that does that. We spoke with the gentleman that's done the maintenance on this truck since the day it was brand new. Put it up on a lift. We did a walk around, it was virtual, all that. They pulled it out, they ran the ladder, set it up, spun it around, lowered it, extended it, did all of those things. Everything seemed to work fine. But that's all good. We'll get to that in a minute. There's a list of equipment that's coming with the truck. There's a list of equipment on this page that they plan to take off the truck. We're gonna, if everything works out, we want to negotiate them with the sale that we can buy some of this equipment with the truck because it's already there. It fits, the brackets are there, everything, it's all part of it.
So that equipment we want, that stuff that they're taking off the truck, but you want to pay by to keep it.
Correct. We want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. So there's that. And then finally, the last page is kind of the plan from the financial piece, right? The asking price of the truck is $60,000. I've got 60 to 70 there based upon that list of equipment that we want to negotiate for. We had a pre-purchase inspection done that was done last week. The cost of that was, just under $5,100. We're waiting for that report. That inspection was done at a Pierce dealer down in Long Island, Firematic. They had the truck for a couple of days. They did the full aerial testing certification, the non-destructive testing. They've done everything that you can think of to this apparatus. And what we're waiting for now is the report back from them. You can look at it two ways. They did the inspection last week. It's Thursday this week. We haven't heard anything. I think if there was a huge showstopper, like, hey, you just walk away, we would have heard that by now. So I'm sure they found some things in waiting for the report, but I'm hoping that what they have found hasn't been major. So and it seems like that would be the case, because they didn't call us up immediately and say, no, just walk away from this. So they're going to do that. We would hire somebody to transport that truck from Long Island to here. That would be about $1,400. We would have to put a new radio in it for us.
So it's not, obviously you're not driving it, then it's in the truck.
I'm not sure if that's, I believe that is transported on a low bed truck, but it could be just hiring a driver to drive it here. I'm not sure. I didn't get the estimate, so, but that's an estimate to get it in. Radio, obviously we'd have to put our lettering and name on the side of it. That we've got $5,000 in here for training. A lot of the local fire departments would be more than glad to come help train us. We've had the suggestion that what we might want to do is find the most experienced operator of that apparatus in Plainview Fire Department and bring them up for a nice weekend in Vermont in the summer, and let somebody that has used this truck extensively
knows exactly how this crank hitches right here.
Exactly.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Actually, than
So,
local people with different trucks.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, we've got some money in here to hire some training, help with some documentation, and do those sorts of things. Miscellaneous tools, the nozzles that they use are not the same handline nozzles that we would use. So do we buy some? How does that work? We'll take a look at what comes with it and go from there. So, ultimately in the end, the best guess that I can give you is we'd be around the $100,000. And again, the intent of this is, and I've given you the estimated annual maintenance cost as based upon some expenditures that local fire departments, we got some numbers both out of Essex Junction and Williston for what they have to spend on their aerial apparatus for service in an annual basis. And again, the intent of this is for us to start to, if you ask me, is there a need to have this truck in the community today? Well, we haven't put up the structures, with sleeping on the high stories and those sorts of things. Solar panels present a problem with chimney fires, but I'm not sure that this truck isn't going to get to every house with a solar panel that could have a chimney fire. We know that. But the idea is that mill property is going to get developed. It's coming. And what we want to do is make sure that when that building goes up, we know how to use the truck. We have the planning in place to position it properly. Our office, if I had a ladder truck coming to a fire tomorrow, and I'm the first one there as the incident commander, I'm not exactly sure, engine's got to go past. I've got the basics, right? I got some basic knowledge, but having the experience of actually having it there and doing it. We've got drivers on our department that have CDLs that drive trucks all day long. We've got a few of those, but most of the other people don't. And this is a big truck, and we're not required to have CDLs to drive fire apparatus. So,
That's interesting.
getting people time in the driver's seat, getting people time on how to run this thing, it's different than an engine. So that's why we're moving forward with this at this point in time, is to build all of that. And, if in 6 or 7 years, things have not moved with the mill property, or things are different, it's not to say that we can't get rid of this truck and not get another one. There's nothing that locks us into having one forever. So.
Now, this is going to come under the fiscal year 25 budget.
No, this is in this year's budget, the current budget we're in right now, 23-24. So,
And so, because, you know, for your budget that was passed for fiscal year 25, you had a, budget of $182,798, but, your presentation, you know, the numbers here, which put it at 197,300. 106, yeah. It has, yeah, 196. Which is a.
that,
for the
so,
total
so,
truck.
No, I think you're.
so just be careful. That's
The total truck payments, but yeah.
but that's not the capital, that's not the full capital plan. This is just a truck page. There's a full capital plan page.
But, you know, considering, but you have the, you know, the numbers, there's a difference between them, you know,
No, the capital plan will be 180, whatever it is.
so you're gonna use, you know,
Well,
There.
we'll have the loan that we pay, you know, we'll make the loan payment of 26,570. That's in the 25
yeah.
capital budget plan that was approved.
Because there was a, you know, because your budget itself had truck, you know, loans at 182, and that's what you're planning on the number at then.
Mhm.
Rather than the 196.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I wanted to make sure that that was, you know, appropriately covered.
Mhm.
Oh, no. We have I guess because this is very specific, we'll go ahead and break our new rules.
Patty Richards from the town of Underhill Selectboard. We
Okay,
thought that, we apologize that we were here a few minutes late. We thought the meeting for this bucket truck discussion was at 6:40. But we have questions. The meeting was supposed to be a joint meeting for this topic.
oh, we didn't know that.
For Underhill.
We first thought we'd have a joint
Mhm.
meeting, but then it didn't turn out.
Right.
We could
Yeah,
get
yeah.
a quorum.
joint.
So we agreed that we would come over as
Yeah.
representatives. Monday.
Well, okay, then, yeah, feel free. You should ask questions.
And then why don't you come up, here, just come up here, this is
Okay.
Matt's presentation to both boards essentially. correct?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So for the record, Patty Richards, select board for the town of Underhill.
You look familiar, but you know, it's hard to, you know, when you only see you like once or twice a year in your summery rather than wintry.
Hold that one over, that microphone
That's
over
okay.
to you. Yeah.
Because we only see you in the winter.
Exactly, but not with a sleeveless shirt. You know, with us. Thank you very much. And thank you, Matt. We were listening from behind, so.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to interrupt your flow of questions. If you're done or.
You know, yeah, I think we pretty much, you know.
So the only question that I had, which you kind of answered was. And this conference, I think I was sitting over there. Whatever, 6 months ago, when this conversation started around this truck, my question was just, do we really need it? And then when you're talking about mill property, I was like, yeah, but that's me, like, feels like 5 years from now would be a rush job to get actual things in there. But I felt like we addressed that in terms of like, well, first of all, we need to learn to use it, which makes sense. You can't just buy it and then go and fight a fire with it immediately. And the fact that we're into it for relatively short money and we can get out of it and don't need to replace it if the property becomes a baseball field.
Exactly. So, you know, our full-time staff will certainly have an opportunity to learn quickly on it. But the volunteers, you know, we meet once a week. You know, and it's for 2 hours, right? So short of doing a bunch of special trainings and evolutions and things like that, if I have, you know, if the department has a training where we're going to train on this truck, ladder use, climbing the ladder, tying off, you know, driving, pump obviously we can't be learning the ladder while we're driving. You know, we could probably train 4 or 5 people for 2 hours. And you're probably going to have to do that same 4 or 5 people with all the different aspects of it for 6 or 7, 8 times before they're, you know, comfortable with it. Right. And then if we don't use it on a regular basis, if it doesn't come out of the station and go on a call and set up the ladder and do those things, those skills get forgotten. So we understand we're ahead of the need for it. But it's going to take us a while to develop the skills to use it properly and safely. You know, if this thing shows up in July in Jericho. There might be some conditions where it has to be on the road for sort of a separate use,
Other
more,
use,
more,
not-
more as a rescue, more as a rescue truck than as a ladder truck. But you know, I wouldn't see us pulling it out to go fight a structure fire with it, you know, for at least 4, 5, 6 months, right? I mean, it's going to take some time.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. Matt, are there other uses of the truck other than the ladder? You just talked about potentially using it as a rescue truck.
Well, I mean, it's got compartmentation on it. It'll have all kinds of tools on it. You know, it's got pike poles, it's got a pump, it's got water. You know, we can use it for fires.
Okay.
You know, it's more than just a ladder on wheels,
Okay.
right? It only carries 200 gallons of water, so it's going to have a supply of water for it, you know, to be long, to fight a bigger fire, which is usually the case with a ladder truck or any of our trucks, right? You know, an engine shows up with 1,000 gallons. If you have a well-involved fire, that's never enough,
So,
right?
Yeah.
So,
okay, so there's some practicality in terms of its use.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. The training for the truck, is that transferable to a new ladder
Yes.
truck or a different ladder truck
Yes.
into the future? So
Yes.
a ladder truck is a ladder truck,
No,
fungible, so to speak.
no,
Okay.
a ladder truck isn't a ladder truck. But the idea of positioning and running a ladder, you know, so it's kind of like if you, you know, drive a Ford F-150 and then you go get a Chevy 1500, driving is driving, but where the controls are, how they work, the little things like that are different. So,
Okay.
you know, I
70% the same.
I
30%
can't,
different.
I'm not gonna say that, you know, but the skills of climbing the ladder and positioning the ladder and moving the nozzle and, you know, those sorts of things are all, you might have to practice a little with a different truck and figure out the controls a little bit differently, but you know, you've got the basics, right? It's like driving. That's how I would,
Are there any warranties with the truck
No.
from Long Island?
no.
Do you know why they are getting rid of it? Just the age or?
Nope. So they got a new ladder truck. Their staffing has gone down. They have this truck and it just doesn't go out on the road. They don't have the staffing. They put the new one on the road and not this one, and they just don't have the staffing to run this one. So they don't want to keep it in their fleet anymore.
The next several questions are going to talk about the budget impacts. As you
Mhm.
know, for this fiscal year we're currently in, I think we all swallowed hard when we
Mhm.
approved the budget. How does this fit in with the overall capital plan for the fiscal year 24 budget that we are in right now?
It's in there.
So we're not going to exceed the capital budget for 24. Are we not getting other equipment that we would have purchased?
Nope. So the answer to that is yes. We're not getting the squad truck this year, that we purchased, I don't know, year and a half ago now. But we're not using, the funding for this was in the plan. Even if those other apparatus came in, even if all of that stuff happened, this funding was in the plan. And it's been in the plan. This is not, hey, we're not getting that truck, let's go spend money here.
Okay,
This truck was,
there's reserves set up, I assume.
yep, the capital plan reserves, all of that stuff. And again, we're not paying $100,000 cash for this. There's a $10,000 down payment. There's a loan, there's payments over
Yeah.
5 years. We're expecting the life expectancy to be 7 years, you know, those sorts of things. So we're not, I won't say that the department won't be over budget this year based upon everything that's going on, but it's not like we would go buy this truck and come back and say, yeah, we're over budget because we bought the ladder truck.
Okay.
The ladder truck is in the plan.
Yeah, based on the numbers in the last capital budget, there's about $526,000 in your capital.
Yeah.
Capital reserve.
Yeah.
fund.
Okay. My understanding is that there is a vehicle in the fleet that didn't pass inspection.
New news this week, our heavy rescue truck has a hole in the frame of it. It's a 2001, so it's not a new truck. And we're looking at the alternatives for that for, it's currently out of service. We've moved some equipment around. And, that's kind of where I was headed earlier. If we're going to get some estimates to repair that truck to be able to use it again, we're going to look at that. If we, and again, there's no guarantee that this truck is coming here because we've had the inspection done, but we don't have the results yet. So we have to get that before we, there's been no committed. Yeah, there's nothing with that. And that is a short-term alternative, is that some of the equipment on that heavy rescue truck could end up on here once we got some drivers qualified. This truck, I wouldn't want to use this truck. I wouldn't put this truck on a dirt road in mud season. Not right now. We don't have enough. Yeah. So we certainly have people in the department that could do that. I certainly wouldn't want to be behind the wheel of this in mud season. So
With the issue of the heavy rescue truck having frame issues, would it not make more sense to use funds in the capital budget for that truck and not go with the ladder truck right now, given that surprise?
That's certainly a consideration. And again, we that was new news this week on Tuesday. So we don't know the path that we're going to take for that rescue truck, right? We have a replacement. We've purchased the replacement truck for the rescue truck. Okay, lead times.
Sitting way out there in the future.
Lead times are well, no, we've already bought it. Lead times are 2.5 years.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have a chassis built for one truck that we were hoping to get in July. New news this morning is it's not coming in July. And it's June 6th. And we found out this morning that no, you're not getting it in July as of morning. We're working that issue. And the replacement truck that the heavy rescue was going to be replaced by a combination of two trucks. And those trucks are ordered. We signed the orders from those. So long-term, that replacement is going to come. Right now, what we've done is the critical tools off the heavy rescue truck are in our utility truck, which is our F-350 pickup, right? So they're in there. We've moved a couple of tools into our squad truck. We're functioning. So, and what are the options? I don't know. I don't know how bad the frame rails are. I don't know what the fix would cost. We're working on getting estimates and figuring out a path forward.
Okay.
So.
Okay. My last question is relative to the use of the ladder truck. You really talked heavily about it being needed for the mill property development. Certainly in Underhill, can't really have tall structures. So what would be the benefit of the ladder truck to the Underhill taxpayer?
So again, homes with solar panels, if you have a tall, let's say you have a 2-story home, but on the backside, your property slopes off. So on the backside, it's really 3 stories and there's a bedroom on the backside. Getting to that, and again, a ladder truck's not going to reach around the house and get there. But if you have a 2-story home and our 35-foot ladder is a minimum 2-person job, 3-person job, this truck can land in the driveway and the driver gets out and gets the ladder to the window, right? We have less manpower now. So this thing, as long as it can get there, and again, that's the caveat, right? Right now, the roads are dry, everything's dry, there's no mud, this truck will go a lot of places. You get in the mud season, it's not going to. This is a big, heavy truck. And so, that's all part of the learning. So, the schools, any place that we use a ladder today, a ground ladder today, this truck can work. And it takes less manpower to get it set up.
What about the solar panels? What is the,
Well, so we can't go on a roof with solar panels. We can't be
Ah.
on the solar panels. So if you have a chimney fire and we don't necessarily go on roofs to vent roofs during fires anyway. But you know, there quite a few times there are chimney fires where we go up on the roof, check a chimney. There are other ways around that. We don't necessarily have to be on the roof, with chimney fires. You know, the Historical Society in Underhill, that's a good place. The town hall. Again, it's not that we can't use our ground ladders to get there, but having something like this, it's got a waterway on it, which means that, water can come off the tip of the ladder, which can be a useful tool, those sorts of things.
thank you very much.
Yep.
That was my list of questions.
You need anything from us, or is this just informational?
This
We can
was,
yell at you and say, don't do it, this is a mistake, but you're.
well, we're here to have a dialogue, right? It's
Keep us
not,
updated
yeah.
where things are at and what our feelings are.
Correct. We wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of what was happening. It is in the budget. It's in the approved budgets. It's there. But I don't like to, I personally don't like to go do something like this, because part of the discussion that happened in the department when we discussed this within the organization was, hey, we haven't really advertised this out with the community, and all of a sudden people are going to see a ladder truck,
Huge truck
and
shows up.
we just want to make sure that there's some communication, and those sorts of things. We certainly don't want you folks surprised with, what the heck is that says Underhill Jericho on it, right? So again, we wanted to give you all the information. So, if you get the question of, why the hell did they buy $1 million ladder truck? You can sit back and go, well, it wasn't $1 million, so.
Better if it's a train on something that's not.
Well, exactly, exactly. And again, if the mill property doesn't work, if things don't happen, whatever, this is, in today's world of fire trucks, this is a relatively low cost apparatus. And if it doesn't come out in the long term, then, we don't get the replacement for this.
Just a general budget question, because, going forward from from FY 26, and, for the next few years after that, your truck payments are going to be on the high side compared to what they have been. Will you be using your capital reserve fund?
It's coming down. Yeah, you're correct. It's somewhere around $500,000. I think it comes down, within the next 10 or 12 years. I think it comes down to like $3,000 is the plan.
Yeah, that's what I.
So we're going to burn that up.
Like, remember the long term.
And Patty, one of the things that we can do, or Pat, sorry, one of the things, okay, one of the things that we can do with the capital plan and the rescue truck and those sorts of things is we can move some stuff around, depending upon where we end up, and need to do, if we have to push a truck a couple of years because we got to spend 30 grand to fix the rescue truck, we can evaluate, can we do that? How do we make that work?
Yeah,
Right.
your FY 25 budget had 50K for new capital expenditures, so that, kind of might be shifted depending what you've got right here.
Depends on what we got to do. Correct.
The
We've-
rescue truck, it's used all the time, right?
Yeah, it is a higher use apparatus, yes. So,
Thanks, Matt.
Well, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm glad that, thank you for telling me.
Yeah,
I knew who you were. No worries. No worries. I saw Brad come in and I thought, oh, okay.
Appreciate being able to participate.
All righty, we're now going to talk to Allison's Spasyk. Yeah. You want me to come up? Yes, please.
No.
That's a very impressive resume.
Thank you. Did I send one in? Or I wrote something?
Yeah. Maybe we'll hire you instead. For some of these projects that have to do with water.
Yeah.
Anyway, to give others the benefit of the doubt why I'm what I'm talking about, would you talk, tell us a little about yourself and why you're interested in the Conservation Committee.
Sure. So I am currently working for the Lake Champlain Sea Grant while I'm getting my master's degree in natural resources at UVM. So I'm a full-time student during the semester time, and then also my funding is through Sea Grant. So I primarily do watershed education with them with K through 12 students and also teachers in the Lake Champlain Basin for professional development. We do a little bit of stuff with community members. So that's my current role. I was previously the project coordinator for the Friends of Northern Lake Champlain, which is a small little nonprofit up in St. Albans, doing a lot of project management work on clean water projects. So writing grants, managing those projects, hiring consultants a lot of the time to do the engineering work. We did a couple of implementation projects as well, like stormwater projects and floodplain restoration projects. We worked a little bit with farmers. I went out and did water testing. I think it was every other week at a couple different rivers in the Missisquoi Basin to monitor phosphorus levels. And then I also did some education work with that organization. But I applied to be on the Vermont Citizens Action Committee for the Future of Lake Champlain. It's really long. It's run by the Lake Champlain Basin Program, but they kind of advise the governor and the legislature about priorities for Lake Champlain into the future. So I applied to serve on that board, which Karina Daly is on. And she mentioned that Jericho was looking for members for the Conservation Committee. And I had actually worked with the Georgia Conservation Committee pretty heavily because we were doing a lot of projects in there. So I understood a little bit about what such a body does. And I said, sure, why not? I moved here to Jericho in December into one of the condos on Starboard Road. And yeah, I'm looking forward to honestly learning a little bit more about what the committee does other than water quality, because that's how I've previously been involved in similar groups. But
I mean, yeah, our committee does all kinds of different things, but water quality is, you know, what you've done is helpful because, you know, we have a food hub task force, which is working with local farmers and, you know, the conservation committee, you know, sponsored, you know, funding for like the farm upstream and stuff, which is the food hub's also working with them. I mean, so there's a lot of synergy between different task force and committees and things like that. We do a lot of, you know, help our local farmers as well.
A process question. Do we need to make a motion and formally approve?
Yes.
Then I would make a motion to approve Alison's basic appointment to the Conservation Commission with a term expiring in 2027.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Yeah,
Alison.
thank
Really
you.
appreciate
Thank you,
taking the
Alison.
time
Yeah.
And helping the commission getting involved.
looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
And then Wayne is on Zoom, I see.
Yes, he is.
And so
Yes,
Wayne, the
I'm here.
same question happens to you, you know, obviously you've been to the Conservation Commission meetings because it says you met with their members. And so talk a little bit about yourself and your interest in the Conservation Commission.
Okay, yeah, there, I got the thing. So I've known Tom Barable for a long time. We actually, when our kids were in middle school, taught a conservation enrichment course at Jericho Elementary School. So I've been an avid outdoorsman for years, hiking and snowshoeing on the various trails we have in Jericho. Also have been a fly fisherman on all the various streams. I helped a guy who was a naturalist. We caught some brook trout in right here in Jericho and then over in Stowe to see if there was a difference between the Winooski watershed brook trout and the Lamoille watershed brook trout. And they were different colored. He actually wrote a book about it. I've also been the Jericho Affordable Housing Committee rep to the Conservation Commission, so that's why I've been attending the meeting. And you know, they did put out a call in the last meeting that they could use some help. And I don't have I'm just a humble semiconductor scientist who's retired, but I don't have the specific education, that Allison and the other people on the committee have. But, I was a scientist and I told them I could help if they gave me assignments on researching any kind of things. I know that, back in the day on the Affordable Housing Committee, we worked together on researching Richmond's zoning rules for input to the committee. So I think that's what I could bring to them, is to help them with any kind of research for any kind of initiatives they're working on.
I mean, you're right. Jericho is very fortunate to have actually professionals on our conservation committee. Because a lot of towns don't. But we also need people, as you said, like you, to, that do, basic research and, provide. But the fact that you're a fly fisherman, water quality is very important for trout fishing anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Things like that. Do you have any questions?
No, I know Wayne and I was on the Affordable Housing Commission with him. I think he was great. So I make a motion to approve Wayne Ellis's appointment to the Conservation Commission with the term expiring in 2026.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. Yep.
And I have to do this. And now we have to, I thought when I wasn't paying attention that Pat was here. Yes, it's, because as I said, it was winter and things look different. But I saw Brad come in and I thought, oh, he's coming in to, we'll have a mutual signing for mine.
No.
But anyway, next is a review and consider approval of letter for support for the Deborah Rawson Memorial Library for grant called the DRML Upgrade Project. And so, Holly, you want to say anything about this? Holly?
Yep,
Oh, there she
I'm here.
goes.
It's hard to hear you.
It is.
Do you
It's
have the
okay.
volume? Read the volume?
I don't know how to get out of here to get the volume.
Might just be the keyboard. Just.
Oh, right there.
Holly, can you
Yeah.
count to 10?
Sure. It could be on my end too, my microphone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
There you
9.
go.
That's a little better.
That's better.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
sure, no problem. Yeah, so I have applied for a grant from the Department of Libraries, and it will help cover the cost of the HVAC and heating system upgrade that we currently have going on right now. Both towns did give us ARPA money towards that, but between the receiving of the money and the start of the project, it went up another $80,000. So, so this grant would help cover that part that we're missing, and also our carpeting in the library is carpet tiles, and the glue backing that's on the carpet tiles is it's about 10 or 15 years old now, and the glue is starting to fail. So sometime in the next year, we're going to have to replace that, and this grant would also cover the cost of that.
Right. So you just need a letter from us and signed, and then you have to have it tomorrow.
Yeah, it's just in support of it,
Yeah.
support of the project. They just
Well,
want to
thank
make
you.
sure that the towns are aware of what our plan is for the money.
On board, supportive of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad the price went up that much.
Oh,
That was a real
It was
surprise.
crazy.
Yeah.
Holly, are you going to be around tomorrow where I can drop the letter off?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
Motion.
We need a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve the letter as submitted, the letter of support for the upgrade project grant to be signed by Chair Catherine Deans.
I second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is our sidewalk client contract with
Tim.
Tim, yeah, I was going to say,
Tim Clark.
Tim Clark, and all of a sudden went, no, that can't be right.
It is.
Right? I'm looking looking at him going, yeah, that's Tim Clark, but then my brain just went, wait, it's not there, they can't read. Oh, I tell you that he's killing me. All right, anyway, Tim has been doing it for quite a few years now, and initially, and during that, the last couple times, he's been the only bidder, so this time we just chose him as a preferred alternative because people have liked what he does and how he takes care of the sidewalks.
We didn't put it out there, we just said,
Yeah.
this is working.
This is working because
If it's
the last
right,
few times we put it out to bid, he was the only bidder anyway.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to approve Tim Clark as for the sidewalk plowing contract as presented.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for continuing to do this. I mean, you met all the requirements.
I mean,
You got the liability thing on the back.
I'm not gonna second guess the support for the last number of years, but I'm happy. I've heard no one complain about the sidewalks ever, so if they're happy, I'm happy.
Well, thank you. I figured I would come in case there wasn't any questions.
Sure, yeah, appreciate it.
And that was good of you. I mean, just in
Yeah,
case,
absolutely.
Yep.
you know, I mean, that shows that you care.
I do.
Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
that's
you.
important.
You're welcome. Thanks, Paul.
Okay. Next is,
Matt
We have to re-
was supposed to be on here for,
oh, we don't just approve it.
oh, you can, he was just gonna come on in case you needed any questions answered, but yes, go ahead and
I
do.
think the important thing for you to mention, you know, because we know, the fact that we had to go out to bid several times and we.
I did do that, yes.
Publicly?
Oh, no, go ahead. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I had to put this RFP out. We put it out, as I said, we put it out April 10th and the deadline was April 20th. We only had gotten one RFP. So then we decided to put it out again, and I actually put it out longer. I put it out on the April 29th to May 20th. And still only that one RFP.
Because that was the important thing, because people had asked me during the process, was it going to be somebody different who was doing the project management rather than the person who did it? And I said we would be putting it out to bid,
Yep,
and it was important,
right.
but
So why are there no bids?
I do not know. I had, someone had mentioned that people are straight out busy and they just don't have the time for it. Other than that, I don't know. That's all.
yeah, because it's a project management, and there's a lot of people who would do project management.
Right,
But we-
right.
I know, my question is, are we in any way a marked town? Like, oh, I don't want to deal with them.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I'd be interested in knowing if somebody, if I.
For
if-
sure.
If Heinsberg had a project and they had, yeah, we had seven
Right.
RFPs and
Sure.
why we have none.
Sure,
Just to know
sure.
that we're not
Yeah,
doing something where we're just not able to get
right.
any kind of competitive bid process.
I know for road crew, we scored more than Heinsberg did.
Can't. But go ahead.
Go ahead.
More of a question, what's the construction timeframe?
They hope to go put it out to bid for construction in early 2025.
My guess is all the construction management, project management companies are just.
They're all booked. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I heard too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Because we're doing this so late and fast. And
Yeah.
we were talking about it 3 years ago, we might have had more bids because people already booked themselves out to 27.
I think timing, yeah, the construction season, yeah, the timing,
Extremely busy.
yep.
Oh, Tom, go ahead.
What is the project? Excuse me, what is the project we're talking about here?
This is the construction of the new town garage that you voted your taxpayer dollars for. And as to remind everybody, the first part with project management and getting the permits and everything else will be funded by ARPA funding. And the actual construction will take place in 2025 so that your taxes will not go up until 2026 with the bond. So we worked real hard to make that happen rather than face the bond numbers this year because of the school tax issues. So there we go. So anyway, what he will do is he gets to, you know, put the project together essentially where they, he. They, you know, he's worked at different town garages and things like that, and basically, he puts it together. Looks at the, who's gonna construct it, you know, put up, you know, help us put up the bid, all the different permitting and everything else, so that we don't have to have staff time utilizing it. I don't have the actual RFP here, but he has.
It's the back page is the, like the, most of the information for the town. The project management services,
Oh, that's right.
he kind of breaks
I had
it
seen that.
down. Yep.
And basically, he's going to, you know, look at different design services, RFIs, you know, and document, so we can decide, you know, what the RFP will be, but it could be civil, architectural, structural, different inspections. Look at the design service proposals, make recommendations to the town, prepare design service contracts, review pay requests for town. Attend design meetings either in person or online, make sure everything stays on schedule and budget, assist with permitting. Facilitate the design kickoff meeting, outlining schedules and goals of the project to the design team, document updates to the report design status to the select board. Monthly, provide cost estimates as the design progresses to ensure the project is designed to budget. Assist and provide value management services as needed so that we can, you know, he's provided guidance to the design team regarding lessons learned based on previous garage projects. And prepare the pre-qualifications RFP for general contractor bidders. Post review and background check those qualifications, make recommendations to the town, and prepare a bid package sent to the pre-qualified bidders, respond to RFIs, assist the town with bidding process, prepare the bid analysis, perform bid scoping, and make recommendations to the town. And that's what he gets to do. You know, and we can talk about, you know, whether you need to, you know, whether you have to have an architect or whether you can just go with an engineering firm and have the engineering design it and, you know, use structural steel building contractors that just put it together. Because there's a major one that does the entire East Coast, that does all kinds of buildings across the world. And then there's another one that that is in Vermont. No.
So my other question is, we got one RFP, is the number reasonable? Do we
This
know?
is my first RFP, so
This
I
is-
cannot answer
So you
that
don't know.
This is
question,
the first
right?
time we're building a building.
Right.
So, I mean, it's, you know, it'd be nice
Can
to,
I make a motion to approve it pursuant to Paula doing some research about the dollar amount, so we don't freeze this whole thing for 2 weeks? But
Yep.
I just want to make sure that it's, he's not like, oh, they can't get anybody, I'll just add 30% to this.
yeah, I think it's reasonable considering what he's asked, because we just, you could, I think the good place to talk is to, although they don't do construction, they do, you know, obviously road stuff and prepare all kinds of sidewalk stuff and provide project management to other, RPC.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
And, you know, they would have an idea, not necessarily of building construction, but at least with project managers, in terms of a total budget of a project, how much they get as a percentage.
Okay, so I would move to approve the municipal project management services for the town maintenance facility. Contingent on Paula contacting the RCP and just verifying that the dollar amount is not out of bounds.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next is, and we really thank Jonathan.
Yeah.
For the amount of presentations he has done for the town of Jericho. Because now it's time for the select board to give the overview.
Well, Tom's been to all of them, I think.
Yeah, he has.
At least 2 out of
I've been all.
I've been to one, and my husband represented me at another, so. It took all the notes.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're familiar with the overall scope. Do we want to give the town's background? That's normally part of the presentation, but
No, we don't,
we
we
can
can start,
skip
yep,
through that.
yep,
Because you've
yep.
been,
I've literally seen the presentation 3 times.
Yeah.
It's been great. It's been great to see each time. I just want to also take a moment to thank you and sort of apologize
Mhm.
for some of the ways that you were attacked for things that were
Oh.
actually directed at the select board.
No, that's fine.
Isn't that what I?
Yeah, yeah,
You did a
that's,
nice
I've
job
been,
of saying like,
no,
"Oh,
it's,
I hear what you're saying.
Right,
That's-
right,
I've heard you,
exactly,
but I can
yeah.
Help you understand this and that.
Sure.
Yep.
Yep.
So I thought that was really inappropriate, at least one of those 3
Mhm.
meetings.
Yep.
So I appreciate, I apologize on behalf of the town and appreciate the way you navigate.
That's
With the-
nice.
thank you for that, but I've been through that
I'm
before.
sure, I'm sure. Public meetings must be the worst part of your.
No, they're the ups and downs, I think. At the end of the very last one, I think, I got to meet basically a peer because his father and my father worked together
oh,
Oh,
wow.
kidding.
for quite a few years, and he made a point of coming to say hi to me, so
Oh,
it's
that's
not all,
nice.
you get the highs and lows.
Yeah.
So this, if you're familiar with the format, this is basically just talking about what we're going to talk about, so we can go ahead and do the next. The wastewater feasibility study for the town, I will talk some for overall context for people who are online. This is a wastewater feasibility study that covers the town's 3 village centers, Riverside Village and the commercial district. We included as one area initially going into the study. We can talk about that. Jericho Corners and Jericho Center.
Those of us on Zoom aren't seeing your slides. We're seeing the USB disk D drive.
Oh, you figured this out once
Okay.
before.
Yeah, we did. Hold
Thank
on,
you.
SJ.
And while you're working on that, I can say also just a couple of things that when Riverside and the commercial district are looked at as one, they occupy the biggest
Don't click on that.
land area.
Click on, that.
This one?
Screen, click on screen, yeah.
Can you see it now, SJ?
You sure can, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So Riverside and the commercial district together are the largest area that we studied in terms of total acreage, and Jericho Corners is the largest number of parcels. On the top right is an outline of the steps in the study that we've completed a 30% report, which identified the needs, the wastewater needs in the study areas. We have completed a 60% report, which is number 2, evaluating alternatives to address the town's wastewater needs. And then after this, we will be moving on to the 90% report, which will compare the alternatives we've looked at and make recommendations. Go ahead.
There we go.
This is the study area we looked at for Jericho Center. It's the smallest of the 3 we just looked at in terms of acreage. The solid aqua line is the town's designated village center as recognized by the state of Vermont. And the dashed line around that is a 1/4 mile buffer around that. Those are mainly significant in the available funding for your village centers that some of the state revolving fund money is targeted towards village centers and not able to be used outside of them in their current intended use plan. Go ahead to Jericho Corners, and this is as we talked about, it's the largest number of parcels. That jumps out when you're looking at the map. There's the most subdivision that's already happened here. There are some larger lots. Besides the village center, the designated village center and the buffer area, you see the orange line which is the Jericho Village boundary. We can go ahead to the next. And then in the Riverside and the commercial district, the village center straddles the line over into Underhill. It's actually, the name of it is Underhill Flats. So even though it looks like you have the larger share in terms of land there. And this is that the amount within the study area is the largest acreage, like we talked about. Go ahead to the next. In the 30% report, in terms of the needs of the 3 villages, one of the things we start to do is look at the environmental resources that are mapped in the area. And what jumps out about Jericho Center is this has the yellow shading on here is what are the environmental constraints in the study area, and those are a combination of the things listed on the left of the slide. Surface water, wetlands, rare, threatened, endangered species, significant natural communities, steep slopes, floodways, river corridors, and well shields being the bottom one on the list. That what is covering a lot of Jericho Center in terms of environmental resources is the area that's supposed to be protected around people's wells because it's not served by municipal water. There are private wells throughout. You can see there are a lot of small lots that are basically fully overlapped by the 100 feet downslope, 100 feet downslope and 200 feet upslope of each well. There are supposed to be areas where there's no leach field. And just to make the point again, I think I've said this, that just because a well shield or a well is located closer than it's supposed to be by regulation to a leach field does not mean that people's wells are contaminated. It just means that if you went to permit it today, they wouldn't allow you to put the well that close to the leach field to be protective of the water supply.
Can I cut in for 1 second, John?
Yeah.
I just want to take a second and step back just for a minute.
Mhm.
Because I feel like everybody has heard this. And the public has heard it, and it's been recorded 3 times. So it's readily available to the public. And I like basically, do we need to do this? Or would our time, I would posit our time maybe better served using this time to talk about sort of
Sure.
okay,
What
so
the next steps would be.
where would you go from here rather than having an hour-long presentation and squeeze in 7 minutes of okay, so what's next? And that would give us some time for you and I and whichever was here, but to talk a little bit just about what next steps are.
Yeah, because I could even, I was thinking, because there have been questions asked, I looked at my husband's notes and notes from the other one, is why did we all do why did we do all 3?
That's my question.
I can answer that. I can also answer, why don't we do water? I can answer that. Because that's a whole different revolving loan fund, for one thing. But
We
could
get
talk
out of here a
about
little quicker, John.
Yeah. No, I'm
Those are my questions,
happy to
like,
have productive discussions.
because it seems to me like if the goal of this, and I don't know what the goal of it is, because this is all started before I was on the board, but the goal of this is to try to create some municipal infrastructure to allow town kind of goals to be achieved. The only place that I see that, and the dollar amount is ridiculous, which I understand is, well, that's not money out of our pocket, it's a whole different. But regardless, it's a huge amount of money, and the only place that I see that being viable or worth the town's energy is around Riverside, where we can actually create a whole, essentially a neighborhood or a village center with mixed use and on and on and on. So I can see your dying to say something. That's just my thought, is like, can we just cut through all this
Right.
and say, let's look at Riverside and talk about water versus sewer and all that. And but maybe, but like I said, I'm new, and so.
Well, the reason all 3 was done is because of the walkabouts by the planning commission and all 3 village centers. And for years, people have been talking wastewater, 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 and there's a way to create housing without any kind of data points. And we had no data points. We had no idea how much any of this would cost. Catherine made, because when she was.
Captain Sonic.
Sonic, yes. When she was working with, the 3-acre stormwater, the engineers suggested that she contact Dan Brown, I believe, from the, wastewater.
Tom Brown.
Clean Water Revolving,
Tom.
Loan Fund. And to come and talk to us about wastewater then. And he talked about how that these are, projects that, there's a real protocol that you have to follow, and even to get the, forgivable loan.
Mhm.
But it made sense to do all three because we had no idea. And we figured looking at the numbers would actually start giving you a starting point to go, okay, where are you going to get the bang for your buck?
Yep.
And we asked, okay, do we have to do it all at once? And the answer was no, you can do it phased, even within an area, you can do
Mhm.
it phased.
Yep.
And that was one of my questions for today about how small can we phase it in
Yep.
terms of getting the bang for the buck? Because that was one of the questions I had. And then in terms, why did we look at water? That's not what they were hired to do, because this is a clean water revolving fund, which is wastewater. If you want to talk about water, you go to it's a different clean,
Yeah, no, I understand that.
so you go to them and they can help you, but if we also already knew that the center is the only one that doesn't have water. And that's where we really ought to think about water, because that's the most cost-effective thing. And Matt has talked for a long time about getting water to at least the fire station there because of all the older homes. And we have water right there at Morgan Road. For the other ones, most of them are covered by some kind of commercial water. So, you could think about that in the future, but if you're gonna start prioritizing, if you're gonna prioritize water, you look at we should think about Jericho Center. If we're gonna prioritize wastewater, we really should talk about the Riverside area. If you're gonna prioritize anything, because that really has the potential for the bang for the buck, correct?
Well, I think it's arguable. I'll just throw out a few
Well,
things
that's
here
what
from
we
it.
need to
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly the
Yep.
conversation that
Yeah.
feels super useful.
Yes.
Okay, so.
Not to throw a monkey wrench in your
Yeah,
presentation,
No,
but-
no, this is good. I like brainstorming and exchanging ideas here. So,
And feel free to say, I don't know. for
No,
stuff
this
that
is
you-
good.
That you weren't asked to prepare for.
Because that's probably what he's gonna prepare for the 90%.
Right.
yeah, well, you nailed it on part of that, but I can give you a spoiler alert, I think.
Okay.
So-
Spoiler alert's good.
So an argument for Riverside is that the Underhill Flats census designated place is the only area where the median household income is below the statewide average. So there's a check.
That's a check for Riverside.
That's an argument for Riverside. And that would not include the commercial district because, within the maps, the village area doesn't include,
It only goes to-
it only goes to the river basically, or close to the river. So that's one on the ledger for
So with the-
Riverside.
So with when you say it doesn't include the commercial, I know that I actually helped make that village district,
Yes,
but could we do a wastewater project that did go to the commercial, or is that gonna?
that could happen, but anything you do in the commercial district won't currently qualify for the state revolving fund funding.
Okay.
So that would be a separate.
That would be a separate We
project.
have,
Yeah.
we have two things going on with different dollar sources.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
So, so I would focus on, splitting them out.
there may be a funding source that would like to
Another
fund
way to-
a project there, but it's not the state revolving fund, which this is currently coming out of.
Yeah.
But we can include it in this study we already have, but
And in the same way, somebody asked about including stuff, like I have this, including houses or spaces outside of this area. If they're nearby, we could choose to grab on one more development or something and extend it to there if we wanted to.
yes, we could adjust the boundary of the study area. I'd need to know that coming out of this.
Yeah.
You're talking Riverside.
I'm talking about Riverside. yeah.
Yep. I remember that comment. Okay. Well, so and then just a couple of other things when you're comparing them to each other. Because people in each of them responded to the survey. Just a few things that jump out to me in terms of comparing them. In the Jericho Center survey responses, they had the highest percentage. I mean, not statistically a lot different from the other. All three were pretty in favor, but they had the highest percentage supporting moving forward with wastewater, 92%. Jericho Corners has the highest percentage of leach fields that are currently 40 or more years old, 48%, almost half the leach fields in the corners. And then Riverside had the highest number that would be interested in doing something more with their property if wastewater became available. Theirs was around 1 in 4, and who said that they would be interested in doing that. And on the other two was 1 in 5.
And see, that gives you more bang for your buck, because if you're looking to build anything affordable, I mean, you need a place where you can put them.
Yep.
And you need water so you can not have to get septic systems on the property.
Right.
And then I guess in answer to your question about how much can you phase it, that there is not a project that's too small to move forward in the program.
Good.
So
Say that again, there's not a project.
they're not-
too small,
right, there's no lower limit of,
what you can do.
hey, that's not worth our while to spend the funding on, although there's a whole ranking system, and I guess there is the potential that because it's about 7 or 8 pages of things you fill out to score your project versus the other projects around the state. And so maybe phasing the size down to something very small might knock you out of some categories of
Impact or.
things that we're not at, things that you would accomplish if it was covering a bigger area, but it's
Say like putting like 90 new units in an area,
Mhm.
that's not too small then.
nope, that's, I mean, in Vermont terms, that's a big project.
That's huge. That's a win, that's a-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, because that's really.
So when you say phased, do you mean, and I have no experience with this, do you mean like, oh, let's first, we're
Like-
gonna put in the pipes right now? Or do you mean like, no, we're gonna make septic happen in just this portion?
Just this portion that's going to give us the bank, that's going to give us like 60 units or 80 units or 90 units, depending where the wastewater is.
I can give a few examples of project phasing. One would be, starting to serve areas that are your highest priority, and then connecting people to that outside of that area later.
Right.
Like you're saying. Another would be the limiting factor ends up being how much you can dispose of usually.
How much waste you can.
How much waste you can put into how much you can treat and put into the ground according to Vermont's permitting system. That ends up, it's the end of the pipe that ends up usually limiting how much you can do. And all these wastewater treatment plants that already exist, they have the ones from the Clean Water Act, they all directly discharge to a surface water. And that's not permitted anymore for new projects in Vermont. So we're limited by how much you can put into the ground hydraulically and make sure it doesn't have a negative effect on the water that groundwater drains to, like the nearest river.
Yeah.
So those are, when you go through that part of the permitting, that normally limits how much you can serve. And Riverside has good potential in that regard, the way, the alternatives
There
that
were
we looked
several
at.
spaces, there were several spaces.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
even if you phased it in and did just a 90 unit or whatever, would any project that we or any town would do, would they all have that 2 systems thing where you sort of turn a system on, turn a system
Yes.
off, let it recover, like
Yes, anything over 6,500 gallons a day, which is,
it's nothing.
it's not a lot of homes compared to what we're looking at here. So another thing you can do in terms of phasing is you can build a collection system that reaches a lot of people, make it optional to connect, and only provides septic tanks for treatment to start out, because you're only connecting
15
fewer people. And then when when people's interest in connecting increases, you could add a treatment plant that would potentially increase your disposal capacity by up to 5 times. And then you have the capacity to bring a lot more people on. Or there are even other levels of treatment. You could get 3 times the septic tank level of disposal, or
So
5
that works,
times.
so we would have tanks because there's only X people, or we want to offer it to X people in this area.
Mhm.
And then my tank fails, and so now I want to join.
Yep.
And then Catherine's tank failed and she wants to join. At some point, we get to like, oh, no, we're maxed out. If we want to add anybody, if we want to add one more person, we now need to take the big step to the next thing.
Yeah, a common threshold that Vermont puts into some of the existing wastewater treatment facilities is when you reach 80% of your capacity, you should be planning on a plant upgrade
Oh,
or
you should be
doing something.
Start the process now.
Yeah, yeah. They actually put that in operating permits for a lot of the direct discharge systems. So to me, that's something sort of tried and true that would also make sense here. If you know, it's important to gauge the community's interest in connecting, and we're far from being able to do that at this point of a study.
Yeah.
We in a future step that you would
That would
really,
be-
because people, are you interested in connecting? Well, how much is it gonna cost me?
Right.
You know?
Yes.
Well, that depends on how
Right,
many
the
people
public-
connect, then you do this. So it's a process you have to work through, but it's, you know, getting to that answer of whether people will connect can sometimes be a challenge, but you've got to present, okay, this is what we think the project should be. Would you connect to this?
And right, and if our numbers play out, it would probably cost you this much money to connect.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you don't get enough, then you go mandatory, because that's the only way you're gonna make the wastewater work.
Yeah, and then
And
there
that's
is
the
an in
best part.
between.
Yeah.
There is an in between also of mandatory if your system fails, or mandatory if you're within a certain distance of the pipe.
Yeah,
And then built-in ordinances that have sort of a carrot and a stick. If you connect right now,
It's only
it's
X dollars.
it's on the project and you're not gonna pay a connection fee, but if you wait and we're connecting you later, you gotta pay $5,000 just to get signed on, you know, something like that. There are ways to, it all depends
Structure all
on
that.
what you think is best for the community.
And is that all outside the scope of what you've been tasked with doing?
No, I mean, we'll be in the 90%, we will be outlining those
Different ways to-
types of alternatives, and then I think we're looking to you for input on what you think the preferred project is for the town. We'll make a recommendation on what we think the one that makes the most sense from the engineering standpoint and from what feedback we've gotten from people. But it's really a town decision on what your priorities are.
so based on what we say, and then what you've already heard from other people, that plays in, plus then you'll have your own, you know, what's the engineering best.
Yep, we'll have the numbers behind it. We'll talk about the eligibility for funding,
That's a biggie.
you know, what it would look like, it costs per user.
Oh, that's even,
That's all stuff, that's.
And we're, at this point, not knowing who would connect, we have to do that
yeah,
based on some different scenarios. You know, if you got 50% of the people to connect, this is what it would cost. So we will recommend this, you know, this level of treatment because that keeps the costs here, or, you know, we have to run through those
Permutation.
those numbers and
yeah,
give you
because
examples.
there is quite a bit of funding available at the moment with different programs, but, you know, you never get 100% funding, you know, it looks
Right.
like you're gonna be bonding somewhere.
Sure,
and, you know, and that's the tricky part.
But
Yep.
the ideas of I really like the ideas of if it works, obviously, the idea of it's voluntary, you can buy in now for X, or you can buy in
Yep.
when your system fails for X plus 10,000.
Or 25,
or
whatever.
Or whatever, I mean, it's gonna cost you, I just did mine like 5 or 6 years ago, and it was like, what, like 30 grand.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm still gonna buy in if I can, because mine's gonna fail at some point, like I just be done, like, there, I'm done thinking about it. Anyways, I just think I like the idea of being able to begin to say, if we can sell it to this many people, it's gonna cost this much per person, and
Right.
being able to tell people that.
Oh, absolutely.
And begin to build some momentum around and see where the people lead.
Because Jericho's a lot of towns, in a more concentrated, urban environment, you have most of the homes within that. In Jericho, 3/4 of the people are outside the village centers.
Yeah,
And so that makes it a little hard to, if you have to bond, how are you going to, is it going to be for the public good for everybody to vote on, or is it just people who are going to be connecting are going to pay for it?
But
yeah, so
That's a different kind of bonding system too.
if the normal way that it happens is the whole town votes on a bond for it, unless you go through the exercise of creating a
like
fire
revenue-
district.
A revenue
they
bond,
just-
yeah.
that just
Yeah.
only the people within that vote, but
Yeah,
then, then it keeps you from, then it's not a town thing. I mean, do you want control of your wastewater system, or do you want just the people in the area being served to have control?
I mean,
of
those are a good question.
it?
But, you also, if you're going to go through this and trying to be able to have, housing built, you also don't want it to be turned down on a project that you've worked like 5 or 10 years and gotten almost all the money except a
Yeah.
very small amount.
Yeah,
But people are gonna go, well, I'm gonna still have to pay $40,000 to replace my own. Why do I wanna pay, $400 a month for a bond to help somebody else?
well, you don't have to fund it outside of even if it's a townwide bond vote.
Yeah.
It could still,
You can still use a revenue.
we are
bond.
normally, when we're doing studies, looking at funding them by the users.
Mhm.
So the user
Without a-
pay for the installation, for the creation, be the entire thing.
If you have the density to support it, that's the way to go,
So if Catherine who lives nowhere near Riverside,
right?
she'll pay nothing.
That's how
That's one
we,
way.
that's a
one
way
way
that
you
a lot
try.
of towns do it, and that's the way we prefer to.
I think most
You know,
people would prefer it, yeah.
But
So what I'm thinking.
the sharp Vermonters know that she'd be paying some anyway, because you'd have you can't say there's no tax, because there are town buildings that would be paying a user fee.
That's
So,
right.
But what I'm thinking about is that whole, that triangle on Riverside, the sawmill property, that whole area, that if we, in terms of, phasing it, if we, again, I'm gonna say this one more time, and I'm not gonna say it again, I'm new to all this, and I don't know nothing at all about wastewater. If we got wastewater in that triangle, and then told Greg Tatro or whoever, building, whatever, like, hey, we're bringing wastewater and we want you to pick up X percent, we want you to pay half the bill to make it happen. And now we just massively increase the value of your property. And then I would pitch to the rest of the town that the development of that property into a multi-use economic driver is
absolutely.
gonna still benefit you in Nashville Road because of what it's gonna do for the town. So is that ludicrous to say we're gonna put in a sewer system for buildings that don't exist yet?
well, you'll have to have a critical mass of users that already exist.
Okay, so we can't just
So
do it to an empty lot.
It has to be
Interesting.
affordable to the users, but if a developer were to agree to participate, you'd really have to have them start participating and paying the ongoing operation and maintenance costs too.
Yeah.
For it to
Right.
work, unless,
That's right.
otherwise it's on the rest of the users to pay the operation and
Is
maintenance
that,
costs.
being perfectly blunt, is that ridiculous? Like, is that never gonna happen?
I think you need more than just a
Potential.
development to do it for, yeah. You need some existing area. And we'll just point out also that, Underhill has expressed interest in connecting also. So
And they have.
there could be some,
Cause they're right there.
there could be a share from them as well.
And because of their census status, it gives a little extra, as you said,
Yep.
check there.
Yep,
You know,
Because they're also below the median.
yeah.
yep,
yeah.
that everybody in that within that green boundary
Oh, right, which goes into.
could connect. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I keep mentioning
If you
that
include
is
that,
because
yeah.
the numbers is because, Westford
Right,
spent years and years
and it got voted down.
and got a huge, a lot of grant money, on very little demand, and it still got voted down.
Yep.
And if you're trying to build something, you don't want to have that happen.
No.
Yeah, you need to communicate and.
A lot of education.
And educate and, right.
Yeah, so I mean, so we didn't mean to throw, you know.
No, this, I cannot tell you how helpful this has been for me, like,
Good.
like, it just hugely helpful.
And it also probably was a little more interesting for you rather than.
How does it work, John? Like if we had like the Rivers property that were, or not the Rivers, sorry, the mill,
Don't say that.
Right.
no, the mill, yeah, that triangle. How would it work? Like, this is gonna take like a process of years,
Mhm.
right? To kind of go into this. What if they started building that started building it in? Yeah, before that,
Greg Tatro or whoever owns it says.
yeah,
if
they're
you're
gonna
creating
start,
wastewater, we're gonna do it
what
on the
does that
commercial
do?
building, we're gonna
Right,
start bringing in housing, no,
Right.
wastewater is gonna be available once we get it.
yeah,
built.
what would that do? Can you kind of steer in another direction
Or
or?
factor in the kind of a guesstimate of parcels or.
Yeah, I think when it comes down closer to the finish line and, you're gonna get funding from the state revolving fund or the USDA rural development. They want a certain number of committed users,
Okay,
so I don't think they're going to say. I don't think they're gonna look at agreements with users who are currently building a home differently than
okay,
users with a home that already exists.
Mm.
It comes down to, here's a property that exists. That user has said they're gonna connect and they're gonna pay this much because they're this many gallons per day.
Yep.
You have to have people sign on to those agreements in the end
okay.
so. Yeah, that's it.
So obviously you have numbers then for, what is the discharge for, a 1-bedroom apartment as opposed to a 4-bedroom house then?
Yes. Yep. Although when you start bringing a lot of residential properties together in a system like this, it actually for single family homes, it doesn't matter the number of bedrooms anymore.
Oh, it doesn't?
Really?
Wow.
So it's because of the law of averages, and it's the number is when you bring 20 of them together or more, you are down to 245 gallons a day per single family home, regardless of the number of bedrooms. Now,
20 of them,
multi-family or apartments, it's still number of bedrooms like you're familiar with. But the single family homes end up being a pretty low number because on their own, they would be 420 gallons a day.
Oh,
Interesting.
so your permits anymore, just because we just got one, like last year, it still had, well, it's a 4-bedroom home or it's a 3-bedroom.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't, the larger homes don't count more against you in the large system.
In a large system.
Yeah.
Just
They tend to be less occupied per bedroom year round than, there aren't that many
Yeah.
large families, right? So
Right.
it's,
Right.
That's right.
when it comes down to it, they use a similar amount of water and have a similar amount of
Bedroom
wastewater go down.
offices and one storage.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you have a bedroom for each cat, or something. Or used to.
yeah,
Oh, wow. Well, this is great. I mean, because one, we needed to, answer some of the public questions that I knew I could answer. And we'll answer, and then, because Tom's here and he knows wastewater and stuff like that too, so.
yeah.
So what's your question?
I do have a question. Are there any cost figures out there now about the cost of extending municipal water service to Jericho Center and possibly the links to commercial district? Is it moving down there?
Well, as for the commercial district, Jericho East actually belongs to the Champlain Water District. And as I recall, the Glen Martin property in the commercial district is part of the association with Jericho East because they were all part of the 3-acre thing, and so his property may have, Champlain water
All right.
already. As for Jericho Center, we haven't started the actual process, but it has been talked about now for over a year because water is right there at Morgan Road. And water per linear foot pipe laying is a lot less expensive than laying piping and setting up a septic system. Now, if in the future, wastewater is needed, it probably would be something to start with within the river's property, if and when that ever got developed by whoever.
Mm.
And that, because there is potential for community septic there. And then eventually that, could build on to the study that we just did and move out from that in Jericho Center. But otherwise, it makes sense because water is close there. And of course, the village, Riverside has Underhill Water District water. So, and then the Corners has Champlain District water. So, we can do homes in those areas without building a septic system is a higher priority because they have water. And you don't have the shadow zones that are all over the center. And that's why water would be a real big help for the center. It's all the shadow zones. Todd and I talked about that years ago.
Would you say it's the town's direction that in the 90% report, it would be helpful to have a single project ranked versus the others? Or do you want the highest in all three? And, I was picturing, I think going into this, we're looking at each one independently, but are you trying to rank them relative to each other? I'm not sure exactly how I would do that, but I figured I'd ask.
Well, realistically, the town it's only had its second bond since 1763. And that just happened. And so that's for the town garage, and it's a $4 million, and people had to suck that one, about it. So I think in terms of what the town could tolerate, it would be a ranking of projects that rather than them giving us
A ranking of the 3 projects?
Yeah. Don't you, or do you want?
I don't see how Jericho Center, I don't see how, I'm 100% open to being convinced otherwise. I don't see how it makes any sense to be talking about wastewater in Jericho Center and Jericho Corners financially. In terms of, I just don't see how we get any kind of bang for our buck.
I don't either.
Whereas at the Riverside, I feel like I can make an argument that people who live in Jericho Corners are gonna benefit from wastewater happening in Riverside because it's gonna provide economic development for the town. So that again, unless you're like, well, what you don't realize is X, Y, and Z, I feel like all I want to talk about is Riverside. And I would welcome people in the audience who are listening to make points that.
Because there are properties in the corners, but it doesn't look like the infill is going to give you the same amount as development in Riverside.
Right, if you're looking for economic development, I think that's true. Yeah.
And that's what we really are.
Yeah.
We're looking at how to foster economic development in Jericho and provide affordable housing in certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
And question for you, John, is it true that the reason you would do it, the reason one would do it in Jericho Center or Jericho Corners, for example, is because if someone said, look at all those systems that are that old, your people are about to get slammed with bad systems, let's get the community behind these houses before they all have failing systems.
Yeah, yeah, and there's,
It won't help
I
the
think
economic at all, but it will deal with all these failing systems that are about to have no place to build a new system on because it's so small.
That's why I was that's why I was thinking in terms of, okay, Riverside is their number one priority, and this is probably where we're gonna go first, but it would be useful to know. Whatever makes sense for the other ones, you know.
yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's, I think the economic development or economic benefit argument for replacing aging systems is preserving your tax base. If-
Meaning the house doesn't become unoccupied, there's no place to put sewage, the house now becomes
Right.
useless.
Yeah, if you have any of those, I don't know how many in Jericho Corners are really that small that you'd have
There's a lot
a
of the-
lot of
What
that,
does
but
happen?
I think,
Sewer system, there's no place to build a new one.
well, you build expensive best fix replacement.
Oh, gosh,
systems.
yes, let me tell you, they're
That-
expensive.
So I think the repercussions would be, well, a mound system is expensive, yes, but it can get worse because you can have a mound system that you can't even fit, that takes up your whole backyard, and it still doesn't provide the capacity, so you have to provide a higher level of treatment on your own property before it goes into your mound, and it's,
So the worst case scenario, like just the property itself becomes destroyed.
But most of the.
or
home-
just very expensive and
Right.
drives people out that couldn't have,
They can't.
can't
Yeah.
afford to do that.
The key is most of the homes, most of the lots in Jericho Corners are fairly large.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, right, so they're less likely to get boxed out and have no
Right.
place
yeah,
to build. Like
Yeah.
my system fails, we have no place to build it. But I have a small property, a small piece of land.
but I do know about the fancy because we live near a brook with a road in between, but. So we had one of the newer systems 12 years ago, well, it'd be 13 now, 14, that the state approved. And it was a company that was been, 40 years plus in the rest of the country. It had gone bankrupt because it didn't fit, it died with frost heaves in Vermont.
Yeah,
And so in 12 years we had, and that was, it was 25,000 then for this fancy with a mound, with a pumping,
yeah,
And now we paid 25,000 just to replace the one part to save the mound, and it would have been another 30 if we had to have the mound.
yeah.
So it really is,
Mhm.
if you don't have the income, it is an issue.
Yeah.
But, so I guess we do need to have some idea of where people might have a problem down the road, but to start with, we're looking at economic development and trying to get more people to move into town.
And I guess I would be interested in, as a part of your next analysis piece, is like looking at Jericho Center and Jericho Corners from that perspective of how many houses have systems that are X years old and have properties that are smaller than whatever percentage of an acre, and will have problems maintaining that house for any kind of reasonable dollar amount. I guess
Yeah.
that would be one reason to consider
Yeah,
the center of the corners.
yeah. I mean, because
And maybe even something small, if there aren't a lot of properties
that's true.
That fit that.
that fit
level.
that, having multiple constraints they'd be facing, aged, small lot. Yeah, okay, that's a good idea.
Tom?
Well, there have been some state programs to provide assistance to individual homeowners, right? So my question is there any funding left in those programs to help individual homeowners?
Yeah, it does still exist, and I'm not sure how much it's accessed, and I don't know the current situation with it, but it's, there's some degree of grant for it based on your income.
Well, that's good to know.
I should talk about that in the report also.
Direct support individual
Yeah,
homeowners.
Yeah,
not necessarily
absolutely.
municipal property.
Would that be support to get myself into a municipal project?
No, that's.
No,
Would be just
it's for
my own
individual.
system to fail, then-
Not a municipal system, they need help. The
Get a new
individual
system.
property owner needs help.
Well, I needed it 5 years ago.
Mhm.
I don't know.
John.
But it is there.
No, I'm good.
You're good.
Well, I think there's still funding too in the ADUs for the state to help you put together an ADU, which also requires some of that stuff. So, cool. So, did we challenge you enough?
No, it's good. I think it helps to hear what your priorities are, and you gave me some good direction for working out working on the 90% options, so.
Is there anything else you wanted to tell us tonight?
No, not if you've been to, yeah. I didn't, I don't think I brought in a lot earth shattering. I guess the only other thing I would say is we did talk about in one of the presentations, there was the input on the housing resolution.
Oh, yeah.
And we will be adding that in the next report, accounting for the proposed housing resolution numbers in our
Yeah.
future numbers. So we've got a plan to do that. That's really the only, new thing, I think.
Would it be helpful, someone was here about the Riverside project with like a phase 1 map.
Yep,
with
I've seen it.
Okay, great. And that would be helpful for you to have that and see what that person was planning, but you
Yeah.
already got.
Yeah, we've had a couple meetings with them.
Okay. Oh, fabulous. Okay, perfect.
Good,
Yeah.
great, yeah. Yeah, so they're.
Cause that can help lay out what the number we're talking about as far as. people-
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's our biggest chance of getting those resolution numbers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, ADUs are nice, but a lot of people still struggle with the idea of where to put one or how to do it and stuff.
Yeah.
And even though the state still, I guess, has advertised that it has still funding and expertise to help people who meet the criteria to do so. But, well, thank you very much
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
We
Thank
you.
appreciate this.
Thank you.
I don't usually get to talk with a single town this many times about wastewater. More to come in a couple months here.
Well, I think it's good. Well, Jericho is pretty unique because we don't really have a village center. We have 3.
Yep,
There is no downtown.
yeah, yeah,
But all the other towns have a downtown, and like Richmond has a real,
yeah.
places.
No,
Even
three
Underhill has a
villages.
downtown.
Huntington has 3 villages.
Yeah.
Just so you know. One of them's Hanksville.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
it's not very big.
You talk about tiny. If we had a friend who lived in Hanksville.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good night.
All righty,
Do you want to move the,
doggy list?
yeah, to do Jessica first before the retreat discussion?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can change that.
okay.
It looks like, I guess our first question, Jessica, is this any bigger than it usually is at this time?
So
It looks a lot like, it looked like, boy, that's a lot of names this go around.
there. This is statistics
Oh, you're good.
from 1990. And
Oh, you're so.
we do a third lead dog report to the state, so January 1 to April 30th. And then May 1st through August 31st, and then the end of the year. So in that last column, or in that third column over, we don't register a lot of dogs between August 31st and December 30th.
Not the
So
last few years,
it's-
that's for sure.
It's good. If the select board is gonna act on the delinquent dog list, it would be good to do it in July as opposed to waiting until August, because people are less likely to follow up on it, because they're like, well, it's already
What's
the end of the year, yeah.
2 more months.
Right.
So our
Did we lose that many dogs between 21 and 22?
21.
Because 21 was 865 total
Lost that
registered,
many registered dogs.
and then 22 was 673.
Registered dogs isn't the same as dogs.
Yeah, so the pandemic obviously affected people. We actually did pretty well registering the dogs during the pandemic. We dropped about 100, but there was a lot of follow-up. Barb McVicker, Assistant Town Clerk, that's all she did, like between was call everyone and remind them, see if they still have the dog, and she had the list
Yeah,
similar
no,
to your
I mean,
delinquent list, so she knew if they needed a new rabies vaccine.
'cause you go from 865, you drop to 673, and then 2023, you're up to 747 again. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
December of 2014 is when the timely incentive idea went into effect.
Mhm.
And that did, I think, increase timely registration until 2021.
Oh, I did, yeah, look at that.
Did it? I mean,
And
if you
then,
look at 2008 to 2000.
well, so yeah, 2008, we were actually over in the church that we were,
So lots, it was easy.
But it's been like 850 to 950
Mhm.
so 2000,
forever. There wasn't much of a change in 2014. Did you say 14 was when the free thing started?
Mhm.
yeah, so, but if you look at the column
Oh,
registered by
gotcha.
April 30th,
Yeah, yeah,
there was
yeah.
more
Okay.
timely registration.
That's gone up.
So actually, I can give you
Yeah,
this
yeah.
list too.
Oh, then it drops down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where I highlighted, that's kind of where we are now, because I printed on 2 pages, but it didn't carry the title over, so I
Okay.
thought doing it this way would be helpful.
Oh, yeah.
So I think the incentive for timely registration is a good thing, and you're familiar with what that is, Peter.
Which is free before April 30th.
The fee is waived. We still have to pay $5 to the state, and there actually was a legislative change this year. It sounds like there's an additional $2
Oh, wow.
for animal welfare division, and it's gonna be partially funded by dog fees that get paid to the state. So it sounds like the payment to the state is gonna go up to $7.
How will that affect, like, since we waived the fee, will that,
So it'll be
The-
$2, so it will be
But it's how-
$600.
$5 for my dog, which
Right.
I'm not paying.
right,
On time.
right, and
Right.
now,
Pays $5 for my dog.
yeah,
Well, the general fund is paying, so all the taxpayers are paying for it as opposed to just the dog owner.
right.
Right.
And the reason we did that was to
And
encourage,
that will be $7.
And now it will be $7 per dog.
For my dog.
And postage has gone up,
Mhm.
um,
And it's
yeah.
still gonna keep
particularly
going
they
up.
we have to pay an extra 60 cents because they can't put it through stamp mail, they can't put it through the machine. So you have to pay extra for it to be hand stamped.
oh, gee.
Wait, for what to be?
The
The
tags.
envelopes, when we mail the tags out,
Oh, when you mail, okay.
But, unfortunately, you don't have to do it to every owner.
and there's a lot of people that actually own multiple dogs.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
don't people come in and get it here normally, like?
Well, that's what I'd like to get back to. So during the pandemic, we were sort of giving everyone all kinds of options about how to renew your dog without having to come to the office or come into the
See
office.
people at all, right?
But there are people out there that missed this. We sent them, I sent out letters May 21st, and some people were like, well, I've only been in Jericho for 4 years, but I've never had to tell you that I had a dog before, like it
What?
just magically appears, in the mail. So we do make phone call, like around, and then this year we actually had the second vote on April 2nd. So I actually had the list at both elections, catching people at the polls. So I thought that would help, but there, yes, I think having the 300 dogs left to register was kind of high,
Yeah,
but
it
you can
seems
see
high.
from the response, the letter, the the letter that I gave you last week. I'm not exactly sure how many were on it, but we're down to 158.
Oh, good, because how many was?
Oh, on this one, okay, okay, gotcha, yep.
No,
So that's just from Friday to today.
170 when you gave that, what was it today?
Now we're down to 158.
So why did you get 12 in the last, just happened?
No, I sent letters out May 21st saying, please try to respond this week. That the list would be going to the select board the first week of June.
yeah, because what she does is if after a certain point, we have to send letters that say we can impound the dog if they don't
I
register.
work with one of these people, I'll tell her tomorrow morning.
Coming for the dog.
So,
Love it.
I don't know why the town is offered to pay and get these things, it's because decided that was an incentive to make sure all dogs are have
Oh, yeah,
right.
it works. Well, I mean,
yeah,
That way the dogs are vaccinated and it's, you know,
Mhm.
because that's a public health issue.
and people have had problems getting their dogs into the vet. You know, sometimes it's a 3-month waiting list to get your
There's
dog
still
into the
having a
vet.
waiting list for this?
I'm hearing it this year, and then there was actually someone who didn't register last year that they registered this year, and they're like, oh, I had to wait 4 months to get my dog vaccinated.
Yeah, because I can see some,
Yeah,
fairly
so-
recent ones that don't have rabies, but then
So
there's some
actually-
from 2022, and I'm going,
Well, if it has on this little list,
Uh-huh.
where it says tag from last year, if it's a 3-digit number, that is a dog that got licensed last year. If it starts with a 2022, the
Uh-huh.
last year that they were registered was 2021. And like on that person, I've confirmed that the dog is still there, just waiting for it
I
to
know, 'cause
get.
the one I see is, with the 2022 number, and it has, the rabies expired in, 2022 early.
So the dog may be vaccinated, we just don't have it here.
Yeah, But they're all.
But they're still
not
getting,
registered either.
they're still getting the reminder notices,
Uh-huh.
because I believe the dog is still there. So like you saw that there were 47 dogs, let's see. On this list,
47 at close
Where-
of the year.
yeah, where does it say that? Okay, yeah,
yep.
so under total unregistered
Mhm.
year end. So if you're at the top of this big list, it has 54 for 2019, 78 for 2020, 19 for 2021,
Oh, yeah.
102 for 2022,
Oh, yeah.
47 for 2023. It used to be that number would be 0 or like less than 5.
Right, you could see that. Yeah.
And that's when, we would send out the letter, but also Ed was making phone calls. It looks like we stopped making phone calls in 2010, and that's, when the number started going up. So that, and I don't know, I am collecting emails now. If people want their email on file as a way to find, if the dog is lost. So it might be that the program doesn't allow us to send out email reminders like from the program, like we'd have to export the data into a program, but
Do you need action from us?
so I've done my action. Yeah, the rest of it is on you. If you, as far as ideas to get the dogs registered, I would recommend sending out a letter.
This is when we usually send out a letter that says, it sounds pretty furious, it sounds pretty
Read all
serious.
these names out loud in the public record.
Go for it, Peter.
Both of my neighbors. Listen.
Well, and unfortunately, there's some people that are chronic on the list too.
And it's expensive to have a dog now.
Yeah.
Bringing your dog to the vet
vet
is very expensive.
Walk in the front door with a dog.
Mhm.
Just nothing at all.
Mhm.
Yes,
Right.
insane.
Right.
But owning a dog is expensive, so
Okay, so you want us to ask Paula to send you a letter from the select board saying, register your dog?
And one thing that you need to decide is if you're going to include the sample warrant or not. And now
Yes, we
that there is a
can,
dog
correct.
warden, or a dog animal control officer, I think
Yeah,
that's a good
typically
idea.
we've done the one letter without the warrant,
Mhm.
and then in June we do, well, actually, this is June.
Or in June?
Yeah, so I guess you're right, it was August we did the one with the warrant, wasn't it?
Do we have a form letter already written?
Yeah.
I think there is one, or, I mean,
But you're
maybe
right, we
Jessica
should do
could
the
give us
warrant,
one.
right away then, just because you, that, as you said, we don't, it's creeping up how many we have in December.
Yeah,
But yeah, and we do have a animal control officer now to enforce it.
so as the people that are renewing now that we have contact information for the animal control officer, I'm sending that with it, so that they know who our animal control officer is.
Well, that's good.
But,
Yeah,
yeah,
we have to
and I
put-
would recommend continuing the incentive. I don't think you have to act on that, because that was sort of
Yeah.
done in 2014. It would just be upgrading it, that now it's gonna be $7 per dog that the town would have to pay because of the legislation.
However,
So-
I wonder if, we also need, the carrot and stick thing. We got the carrot to, if you get it in on time, you don't pay anything.
So far, all they've gotten is electronic information, like emails, programs and emails directly to them.
So they did not get any email reminders. They only got, like Front Porch Forum, or if they're part of Join in Jericho in that newsletter, it comes out in that. And then at the elections, the list was available, so I would catch people as they were coming out, like, do you still have your dog?
My thought is that it's very possible that there are people on this list, a lot of people on this list,
Mhm.
who've got no communication from the town.
Yeah.
Directly saying, hey,
Mhm.
you missed your deadline, you need to get this done.
So everyone on this list did get a letter May 21st. I mailed
That
out.
was a paper, that's a letter that went
Yep, so there was 246
on the list, who got a paper letter
that got a paper letter.
from you.
Yep,
Like-
and it does show that, like, if you're looking at the statistics, if we did do a renewal letter before April 1st to all dogs, that does improve the dog registration, because the letter also shows what we have on file for rabies.
That's huge. They'd be like, oh, great, rabies shots all set, all I gotta do is deal with it.
All I have to do is tell you I have the dog. So that is something we could do next year, but that's a cost in postage. So
Okay.
we stopped doing it because of postage costs. We tried going to postcards. But I think I did look up, let's see.
Postcards might be cheaper.
So in 2023, we did send a letter to all licensed last year and unlicensed for the previous 2 years, except for dogs that were greater than 12 years old. And so that was about 500 letters we sent out in 2023. Because again, people own more than one dog. So that is something I could do next year.
So I don't love sending a threat, but it seems like everyone got a paper letter from you. Well, it was only 5/21, that was only. 2
Right, a
weeks
few,
ago.
yeah.
I would rather,
But April 1st, everybody, it's very clear, it's always advertised, April 1st is when the dogs are due.
And actually, now that there's stuff on Front Porch, people are trying to register their dog again, and it's like, no, you're set for the year. Like it already has the orange tag or whatever, so like sometimes these electronic reminders that go to,
they freak
Everybody,
out, and people are
they're
freaking
like, oh no, I haven't registered my dog, and
My thought would either be to send a non-threatening email from the select board, or paper mail from the select board, followed up by a threatening letter from the select board in whatever, it's like 3 weeks later or something. But that it feels quick to have Jessica have sent out one on 5/21, so I would have received it 2 weeks ago. And I haven't dealt with it yet, and now bang, the select board has come with a warrant and that they're gonna come take my dog. That feels aggressive to me.
Cause I know we often, by July, we usually, that's when we're doing that letter or something like that typically.
The threatening one.
Yeah. Cause it's Jessica said, the longer you go into.
But you get to a point where like 3 months away for December, for January first.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So we may also want to try for, not, next year, because we've got the carrot. If you get it in on time, you don't pay, and it's going up $2, you could save another $2. But if you don't register in time, not only will you pay the full price, you'll pay a,
Fine.
$4 late fee.
Fine, yeah.
yeah, a late fee.
I'm just looking at the calendar.
Oh, I didn't give you the updated list. Did I?
No. No, I was looking at last year.
That was 170, yeah, so
Yeah.
now it's down to 30.
Oh, good.
My sister registered it.
So people got their letter 2 days ago. I got the letter 2 weeks ago, just about.
Well, it got mailed out 5/21.
If-
When you get it,
So
That's true. That's
there
true.
is
If
the
they get
mail, exactly, the mail
on this.
has been behind.
My proposal would be 6/20, June 20th, send a friendly letter. And July,
We have to approve it, so it'd be the first select board meeting in July, because all this we have to approve.
we can't just make a plan now. We can't just say on 6/20 do this.
Oh, you
and
can make it, you know, you just have to make the, we just have to,
include dates and
everything in the motion.
like, can I make a, I'm not doing this, but can I make a motion that would say on June 20th?
Send a
direct Paula
letter.
to send a letter that does not, that's the previous letter that is not
Mhm.
threatening warrants and all that. And then on July, I'm making this up right now, on July 11th, send a letter that includes warrants.
Mhm,
Or July, whatever.
Mhm.
Can we do that? And then the whole thing is navigated?
mhm.
so it could actually just be a sample warrant
Yeah.
as opposed
Yeah, it'll be a
to issuing a
sample. It
warrant.
won't be a
Yeah, we
warrant.
just do
Oh, I
it.
meant, what I.
Yeah, no,
what
I
had
know.
in my head was
Yep.
a letter that was.
Yes.
That had a threat. The first one's like, hey, reminder, this is important because X.
I know
Y,
what you
Z.
mean. Yep.
And then 3 weeks later, hey.
Here
cut
you
it out,
are.
Or else.
Here's a copy of the warrant. This could
Right.
potentially happen. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So do you have,
Those dates.
what date did you
I
have for
said
July?
I said June 20th, which
Yep.
is 2 weeks from now, so
Yep.
people, that'll be
A whole month.
essentially a month after Jessica sent her
Right.
friendly reminder, they get a friendly reminder from the select board.
Yep,
And then maybe 2 weeks after that would be July 4th,
yep,
So,
and we send a threat on July 4th. No, honestly, shouldn't say threat, I meant public. right?
Yep,
The
yep,
letter that says
yes,
there's a
yep.
Natural consequence to this.
yep,
On July 4th.
yep, absolutely.
yep.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to direct Paula to send a letter on June 20th to all of the owners of dogs that are still unregistered. And then on July 4th, to direct her to send a letter including information on the warrant and the legal requirements on July 4th to owners of unregistered dogs at that point.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye. Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, you're ahead of schedule. That's good.
This is already quite, I mean, it's always interesting every year to see.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and I think 2020 just kind of like.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Just-
tell any trends because that was just a different year. But it does look like we're building back up
Yeah.
the amount of registered dogs.
Just like,
And Bill isn't ready for another dog, but I'm still looking for cats. Kittens.
You still haven't found
I still haven't found kittens, no.
Oh,
I know.
okay.
There was only one,
Thanks, Jess.
there was only
Have a good
one
night.
kitten in North Country and then one kitten at, Chittenden,
Aw.
Society. And, you know, they were, bonded pair. Gotta be a bonded pair. And I'm having dealt with, cats with health issues for over 20 years.
Mm.
I didn't want to, the one from North Country though was so cute, but she was probably deaf.
Oh,
And I was tempted, but I went, oh gosh, no, don't take another, another one that you have to maintain very carefully for the rest of your life. Because then you still couldn't get a dog.
all right.
Next is review,
Retreat.
Boris retreat planning.
I talked to Paul a little bit about this, and this came out of me being new on the board and feeling like that I never had a chance to get my head around anything because we were always dealing with kind of just, I mean, we just did an hour and a half of it. Not that it's not important,
Yeah.
but that it just eats up time and, so I don't need to go through all this right now. I kind of showed some stuff to Paula that I did. So I went through 3 years of agendas and looked at what stuff the board was doing and what was taking up the time and wanted to have, and we talked about. Yeah, that people have come to us and talked about, why don't you get a town manager? That's gonna make the board more effective. And we've talked about how you don't need to be a town manager. You can have a town administrator who just, you can then
Yeah, absolutely.
allow them to do X, Y, and Z rather than legally.
And that's what the
obligated to
job
do X, Y, and Z.
description we had
Right,
did.
right. So that like, so I wanna have some time where not, there's nothing else on the agenda and we can just talk. I gave you guys that list from whenever, the last meeting.
Yeah.
It's like all these different things. And I'm like, I wanna talk about all, like, I just need to get my head around all these projects and then the short term, like, the Palmer parking and Riverside.
Yeah.
Not that we can do all that, but just to sort of get ahead and like.
So you know what, yeah,
So we can talk about stuff and see like, okay, so how are we gonna address, how do we find, when do we, and to be clear, I'm not like saying we're gonna do anything about Palmer parking, but just like, how does that get resolved? Do we wait until someone gets hurt, or do we wait until people yell at
no,
us?
there actually are plans. I mean, but we're only limited in what we can do.
Right,
But, you know, you're right. You haven't had the background for all this
Yeah.
that Eric and I have.
Yeah.
And, you know, I read your list the other day and I went, you know, institutional memory is still good.
yeah, yeah,
Because
Right.
I can answer most of those.
right,
So I felt like, you know, I'm still useful, but.
absolutely. I got the stuff you pulled out, and you're talking to Matt, and you were like, oh, no, your capital fund is at over $500,000, and you said 186,000 for your capital this year, that's just 190, like, I was like, what? Talk about.
So that is June 18th, right?
Yeah,
That's what we decided. And what time was that?
you wanna be done by 3,
I need to be done by 3.
Okay, so what do you want to start?
9 to 3,
9:30?
sure.
9:30?
Yeah, because the 18th is the annual meeting at the for the RPC. It would the 19th is our normal day to meet, but because it's June 19th, Juneteenth, the Regional Planning Commission is utilizing a calendar where we don't meet on any kind of day that is has significance. And so that starts at 5 in Winooski. So I'd like to get home, change clothes.
Settle,
Because,
reset. and-
yeah, because
Reset.
people do get a little more dressed up.
Yeah.
And so,
So so 9:30 to 3,
Okay.
what I'm hoping to do is get some background information on a couple of those things where it's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
now I understand it, we can forget about it.
Yeah,
And then also talk about, like, if we can talk about getting, maybe it exists, I don't think it does, but like an annual like a calendar of events and what things are gonna come up. And what are the projects we have in front of us and sort of what, what's the plan? So just what's the plan from kind of 10,000 feet, which I'm guessing you probably have in your head.
yeah,
But getting that from out of your head and into some sort of thing
Yeah.
that I can see and probably the public can see and like one thing I was thinking about was like a capital assets report. So like anything that we own that has that's valued at over X thousand, whether it's 10 or 50 or whatever $1,000, we have a report on it. So
that's probably part of the passive. Because they, because
they have to do a
an assessment of all,
Yes.
all the value, what the value of the buildings are, what the.
That's right, right, so like, what's the?
And we
age-
do have that.
What, and I know that some of it is like the age of our trucks, we know that, but
Yeah.
right down to like, how old is our server? And I know it's
Right.
pretty new, actually. but
Actually,
like-
yeah, good
but
old
like-
ARPA
But
funding.
like, what are those, like, what are the things that we own that we need to be thinking, oh, wait, that's gonna cost us 50 grand in 5 years, let's see
Mhm,
that coming.
Yeah, in fact, as I thought about that when I saw it, because we used to, the capital budget used to look a little different than it does now.
Mhm.
And a lot of that was on the capital budget. In fact, as our trucks they've rejiggered the ages of it, you know, and the turnover. But we had a equipment highway reserve fund.
Mhm.
And, you know, you, just like I was talking to Matt, and that's what they started following after
Yeah.
they watched us. And you know, some years you're putting money in, some years you're taking out, because you draw it down.
Right,
You
you
know,
build it up, suck it all out.
Yeah.
build it up.
Well, and the idea is so that the amount of funding that you're putting into your budget is pretty stable from year over to year, so you don't see
Exactly.
these spikes. So I thought, well, I could bring in our old style and you know, because Brian has his own way of looking at it, which is actually in some ways gives the public more information together,
Mhm.
but it doesn't show this kind of process in
Right.
the report.
Right.
So we could do both. And
Yep.
And I don't know what the town owns, but like if the town owns, I can't even think of something the town would own, but.
it owns a lot of buildings. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, so like all the buildings we own, what's the condition of them, like the town garage, sort of.
Right.
Yeah, we
No,
knew it was coming,
I
it just,
know what Wayne's saying, we knew it was coming, it
Mhm.
just didn't know how
Mhm.
fast it was coming.
it
Yeah.
came a lot faster because
Right.
we had put money into repairs. Well, Todd was still here and into, you know, and then even more, after he was gone but it just deteriorated so much faster.
So just that idea, like you said, like. We.
Just really have
the
a
tax-
work
the
session that
taxes
you
are always
can-
here, the taxes
Yeah.
are always here. And that is gonna cover all the
Right.
spikes and
Mhm.
drops and things, so
Yeah.
there isn't. And I know that the garage is not a good example because it
Mm.
was hugely expensive and came out of nowhere.
Right.
But so that, yep, we're gonna need a $4 million bond and we're building up to that, so that when it happens, we've got
Yeah.
$1 million, whatever.
Yeah, because there was a certain number that we figured in that this was a great number for operating for the highway department. And that was the target. In some years, you know, if you got grant funding, you could go over that because the grant was new and different. Because you're in a cycle where every couple of years you can get a structures grant or every couple of years you get, you know, a payment funding.
Mhm.
And that's, so you can still have so you're still keeping that same number, but you're actually getting more work done.
Yeah.
But you're not only, you also don't have to pull it from the capital reserves for the highway department. But, you know, we haven't seen that number because we haven't put any money in these.
Right. Which is like deferred maintenance in your house, like the fence has to get fixed at some point.
Yeah.
We haven't been setting money aside for it right now.
Right.
It's not gonna-
So so that whole process has been skewed. But yes, I mean, because you really can see how you can maintain all your equipment then under
Right.
those conditions.
Right. And the other thing I wanted to talk about related to sort of the board's ability to do stuff, have time to talk about stuff is what stuff can be, when we settle on a town administrator, what stuff can be like, do we, as nice as it was to meet Allison and Wayne and Tim Clark and Holly and talk about Matt Young, like, do we need to be doing those things? Like, can't all those things, can't the Conservation Commission say to Paula, we have two people who are interested, we've interviewed them, they seem great, we'd like the board to approve them, and she comes to us and says, we need you to approve these things, and then we just boom, do them, so that.
We do them, but the only reason we interview them is, because basically that's what Paula does.
Right.
Or the town administrator. But because it goes, you know, because the committee has to, you know, meet with the people and decide that they like them, and then the chair lets, you know, Paula know that, or the town administrator, whoever that may be at the time. No, but the board, the select board, that is one of the duties of the board, is to appoint. And so we go, well, it would be nice to interview them. So.
I did ask the LCT, if if that would be one thing that a town administrator could do,
Yeah.
and they said that, just what Catherine said, that they have, you
But
guys
we're not
have to
appointed.
appoint.
But you could hand us a slate
Uh-huh,
and say, here are the people.
Yep.
That
Which-
that we would like to have approved.
And this is what happens at town, after town meeting, and because that's all the.
Right, yeah, exactly. But
Yes.
that's like, in this situation, Allison and Wayne could have
yeah,
been given to us as a,
yep,
and it wasn't, and it didn't take a ton of time, but it's just like all these.
Yeah, little
it's
things,
like
yeah,
death by a thousand
totally.
Cuts.
totally, yep.
But it is kind of cool, but it's always nice to have at least the ask, because then you understand why people want to be on the committee.
Yep. And the loss would be that we wouldn't have this interaction with Wayne with Allison tonight.
Right.
But my other thought, this is also like all these, it's like a octopus. My other thought is to, and we talked about this last time, about creating more explicitly planned out communication or interactions with town committees. So that everybody feels like they have access to us and we know exactly what they're talking about and we're just more involved, whether that's like just a chairs meeting or one of us goes to quarterly, goes to each committee, or I don't know what, but just some sort of structure where it's not everyone sort of in these silos doing their
Oh,
thing.
absolutely.
Yeah,
and then
because it
coming to
really
us.
segregates.
Yeah.
The committees, sometimes we feel, or the town is segregated from the committees, and it's like, what are they doing? Or how can
Right.
they be doing this? Or what do we need to do? So it'd be one thing that I had gotten from Linda was having these committees like at the fiscal year, like, or for the year. What is their plan and what they're gonna work on for that year? And that way we know what they're doing
Yeah.
and they know that, they can come to us or we go to them and say, okay,
There was-
whatever.
There was a time when, particularly it was the mobs and the trails committee were the most common, would come and have to talk about their budgets because their
Mhm.
budgets were capital, they were
Right,
$5,000.
Right.
And, I also, as I said, there was a time I did the chair-to-chair meetings, and that was a way to find out what the committees were doing. And then periodic, it wasn't every year, but it was periodically that the full select board would meet with the full planning commission, because those are the two real drivers of what the town does.
The direction of the town, yeah.
But things sort of changed,
Mhm.
with not only the pandemic, but with the
Mhm.
change of administrators and how they function.
Yeah.
And what they would do.
So those are all the kind of things I'm hoping to have time to talk about.
Yeah, and you
that
had some questions too that, you, as you said, you don't get to ask during a
Right,
meeting,
right.
Yeah.
just to get the information.
Yep,
Right.
Exactly. Great.
So that's great.
Okay.
So we got that. Let's see, it's select board updates and the community booth at the
Well,
farmers market.
Peter wanted that on for updates.
Okay,
Did you want it, Peter?
Oh, yeah, what was that? Yes, I did, because didn't SJ, you here? Didn't SJ?
Yes, she's
send
here.
us an email
She probably
about
did.
either it's SJ or it's Susan, I feel like.
I think it's
sent us an
SJ
email
who
about
was
SJ
doing
everything
that.
that's happening,
Yes,
and
she
Is
was.
there anything we should be doing with like?
A
is there anything that
trooper.
Like the Riverside thing, for example, I mean, and maybe it's too early to, but
That's
is
probably-
there something that we should be using that community booth for?
I mean, I did it a couple times last year, with, the town. I also did it a couple times with, Underhill and Energy. Because
Yep.
we've done, Underhill Energy Committee and the, Jet Force did it together. We did, the electrified lawn equipment,
Mhm.
including riding motors. Boy, people love the riding motor. They got to try.
Yeah.
But, and other times we talk about weatherization stuff, but, what I thought I'd go for one of them, I haven't looked at SJ's list again to see when I could show up, but, there is a grant that deals with transportation and, reducing greenhouse gases. And we missed the, essentially doing the RFP, to ask questions about the RFP, because that was Monday. And both Paula and I were just, haven't had time to think about, by the time Ann Janda had let us know that this was an interesting grant. But the grant itself was due in August, so I was going to show up as both the energy meetings and the select board meetings, SB's thing. Because one of the ways that you can get funding for, and they can go all the way up to 100,000, but the bang for the buck is like to buy 5 electric bikes.
Mhm.
And just because then one, a whole family could use them. 2, you could demo them at the farmers markets. 3, people could actually check them out as a lending library and go from like Griswold to the market on a bike
Mhm.
without getting into car. But I wanted to go to the farm, our booth and talk to people who were coming in that were Jericho and say, what do you think about this? Do you think this is worthwhile?
Mhm.
Because that, we would only be asking for about 30,000 in the grant as opposed to, because you could buy an electric car,
Mhm.
but that's not, it doesn't impact that many people.
Yeah.
Where a bike
A set of bikes.
would, in fact, I looked at, let's replace the pickup truck for the town garage. No, that's about 75,000
Yeah.
for the size. When,
For a full size
and when
truck.
the greenhouse gas, that's really nice, but it's not the impact, again, a group of bikes might have. If we really want to have an impact on, small
People's
impact,
habits and.
and, get people to think about e-bikes.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh, I'll try that, but this is the grant that we're thinking about that is due at the end, middle of August.
Mhm.
But
And that's all the energy task force.
yeah, it's actually the town.
It's an
because the
energy
town-
efficient and conservation grants for municipalities.
So it's the town asked for it, but.
Yeah.
And the bikes would be stored here and all that good stuff, but the idea is, but I came up with it, the energy committee thought this is good ideas. And so I talked to Paula about it, but the idea is to actually go to the market and the booth days. And then ask folks,
What their thoughts are.
what their thoughts are, would they actually use it? SJ said she'd like to try one.
Go SJ.
I really, really do.
And they have, we get the ones that are not just the fun, the little speedy recreation ones, but the ones that are really actually alternative transportation, because that's what it is.
Right, yeah.
And they have cargo carriers and everything else on them.
So is there anything that the select board should be reaching out to the community in those meetings, in those
I think
events?
it's early on the wastewater.
Mhm.
We could have used it last year for the bond, had we known we were gonna do that. But right now I can't.
Sounds like no.
At the moment, I don't think of anything. I mean, but we might come up with some other ideas once you start putting everything on a calendar.
Mhm.
Right, yeah, that might
Mhm.
yield something.
Mhm.
But, typically, there's a certain number of, PED, alternate PED grants, that are due, in June. That's a grant that's due in June. This one is, due in August. There's some other grant opportunities that have, have different timeframes too. And because there's so many different organizations out with grants right now that trying to keep track of them, because there's some for 3-acre stormwater. And I had it, and I have to look in my files now because I, cleaned up things. And it came to me and it's not, from the typical sources.
Hmm,
I think it's,
Hmm.
like one of the Lake Champlain grants.
right,
But it's for 3-acre stormwater, and hey,
yeah,
we're finding out we need more 3-acre stormwater work.
yeah.
So I have some community, some select board updates, which are mostly, so I have like 3 topics that I got emails about. Is this the appropriate place for that, or is this something that I just tell Paul about on the side? If they're like. So I'll
Things
just-
that have to
I'll just-
deal.
I'm
We
gonna-
don't know.
I'm gonna tell you what things I have here, and you should be like, and feel free to say like, that's not for right now, that's a Paul. That should go
Okay.
to Paul.
Okay,
So, I got an email, I don't know if we're supposed to say people's names, so I just won't,
no,
about, the highway maintenance facility bond issue and asked them to have that laid out in the tax bill as a separate line. And I know there's a limited number of lines available, but if, depending on how big that is, maybe remove something else and replace it with that if.
Right, and right
if
now,
it's
they don't have to
limited
worry about that.
Space,
That'll be next year.
yes, okay. So that was a request to have that itemized out.
But that's a good idea. That's why, that's one reason why we went ahead and we have, the, fire department, separate, because when it's a. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
It's a fair, plus it also lets people, because Matt kept talking about how, the ISO ratings of the fire department impacted people's insurance. But without knowing how much they were paying for the fire department, it was hard to see
yeah.
what,
What's the cost benefit?
exactly.
The other thing was the front porch forum post that were, I didn't even see this, that Paula said that paved road mowing will be done around July 4th, and what about dirt roads?
I had said on that front porch forum that the dirt roads, we will follow up as soon as I get acknowledgement from the roadside mowing when they were gonna do the gravel roads, but,
But typically, we have mowing in July unpaved and it's August for.
yep, the gravel, yep. I didn't want to put that out there, just not, you know, because I think they were a little late this year or not on schedule just because of some issues, but that's why.
Can the town apply for a grant to repair the riverbank at the site of the old red mill?
Oh, is that from Louise?
Yeah.
That's a new grant, and I sent it to Paula.
We are actually
But-
looking into that.
Because it would help, because we have a grant for the wall,
We do. Yep.
but it has to be done this year for that grant. Otherwise, it's gonna go away.
Yep.
Yeah.
But what we need is additional funding for the mill, you know, because we have the mill work to have the rocks shifted. And we also have, to actually repair the foundation, because
Yeah.
people will not work on that wall unless we repair the foundation.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it'd be great to have a grant for the foundation.
And Paul's gonna look into that.
Yeah, we have this one that Linda and I are working on that we're just checking, waiting for a response to see if we can use this for that piece. Yep.
And then I think we all got a few emails about parking at Palmer Maple.
Yeah.
Yeesh, yes.
Yeah, but
Yes.
And one with some photos that I thought were
Yes.
pretty compelling.
I know, they are
Yes.
very compelling, and then it is a real issue, we have
Yep.
some discussion, that we can go over later. Like the work session,
Yeah.
because that's really needs to be discussed.
Not in a 5-minute update.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's not really an update unless you say, we're gonna be paving the bridge.
Right.
The update is we're paving the bridge, you know,
Yeah.
come October or something like that.
Okay, that is all I had for select board updates that aren't executive session.
Okay, I had, just a couple of little things, and unfortunately, one of them I left at home, but. oops. Anyway,
You had it on your phone.
Oopsie.
no, these are actually brochures.
Take a picture of it.
Actually, I
love
used my phone
it.
the other day when we tried to figure out where we were paying that, so. Oh, Emily put the pool in the wrong spot.
What?
I just happened to notice the poem is in the wrong spot. The poem belongs to the sun, not, not.
Oh, dang.
Not that, but that's a very separate thing. Okay, I gotta shift. Anyway, town hall art, we do have a new installation. It's called Bridges. And if you could notice that it's there are things that are bridges, and there are things where bridge is a metaphor.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And then what I was supposed to bring, and Bill gave it to me to bring to the town hall,
Shame on you.
is that the food hub has put these very nice brochures together about all the farms within Jericho and Underhill, and where you can go to support them
Nice.
at the farm. And it's really nicely done, and people, some people, they put some in the mail.
Have they
put-
brought some here?
That's what I was supposed
Oh,
to bring.
you, shame on you.
But I will bring it here,
Okay.
because like this weekend or sometime when we're out and about, I will have to move the
Okay.
poems over to there.
Yes, when you move the poem over.
And then drop the brochures. so that
Yep.
They are here for the people. But it's really very nice what they're doing to it's coalescing around really helping the farmers and really becoming a local food
Mhm.
that way. So those were my two, the art show and the food hub. And I didn't really think I was going to talk about the because Gabe was at the last one. She gave some of the update. I was there too. And then at the BCA meeting, Tom and Kathy Paris talked about the town meeting reimagined updates also at the BCA. But they are meeting next week, and they will have their first rough draft of what they envision it to be.
Oh, wow.
And, I mean, there's a lot of details to pack in, but they will have the overall structure for this year anyway.
When you say the overall structure, do you mean for the calendar or for the town meeting reimagined day? Like
The calendar of, okay, this is.
Yep.
this
like
is-
the three things.
Yes,
The three
yeah,
games, the
yep.
meeting and
Like the
vote.
timing,
Right.
yeah, the
And this is
dates
the
are.
idea of how we think we're gonna happen, how it's gonna happen. But as she said, there's a lot of details to happen between now, even next week, and the first meeting, late August or September. Because people are gonna have to be thinking about their budgets earlier. And it's really hard for committees to even get their thing to the town reporter.
Yes.
But, there we go. And so, back to the agenda, we have the warrant.
Yep.
And we have minutes. And so we actually have two. One was just an executive session, and so there's nothing, no changes there, and there was no action. And so we just need a quickie,
We did them each separately, or can we have to do them both?
it's better to do it separately.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of May 13th, 2024.
I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then we have the minutes of May 16th, and I didn't see anything with it.
I also do. So I make a motion to approve the minutes of May 16th, 2024 as presented.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I second it. I'll forget. All right, now we need the going into executive session.
I will make a motion to enter executive session because premature disclosure of the information would be detrimental to parties involved.
What?
Oh.
You have been studying. Oh my goodness. That, he was waiting for us.
I'll for you, Eric Johnson.
I love it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so
Excellent. Excellent.
9:04. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.